Afternoon, everyone. Today, talking about Kids for Your Kings On with the one, the only Don Helbig.
How you guys doing?
Send it.
Let's start off with a little bit of Coney Island.
Yeah, Coney Island was a place that my earliest childhood memories are Cincinnati's Coney Island. It was the big thing that my family did every year. So we would go to Coney Island typically on Memorial Day, 4th of July, Labor Day, and still have really good memories of it. I was just old enough to remember it, and I can remember the final year, 1971. There was signage about Kings Island coming. I was there on the final day of operation, September 6th, 1971. So I remember that.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another great.
What's going on?
Yeah, I'll pick up where I was at. Yeah, 1971. I was there the final day that Coney Island was open. I remember the speech that they gave talking about the 85 years of Coney Island, and then that Kings Island would be beyond anyone's wildest imaginations. The fire
Today we have a special little bit about yourself.
Oh, I think Jacob is lagging like big time. Oh.
Go ahead, continue on.
I would say go ahead and keep going.
Yeah. Okay. So Coney Island, I remember it. My earliest childhood memories and that final season, that final day. They were doing great the last few years of Coney Island, having record crowds, but they had a lot of issues there. Parking was a problem. Limited parking spaces. The flooding from the Ohio River was an annual problem for them, and they were landlocked. There just wasn't really room to expand. Anytime they wanted to add a new ride, they would have to remove something. So just a lot of issues there. And in 1964, Gary Walks was looking at a photo of the flooded park, and that's when the idea to move the park, was born in his head. And he started, talking to the ownership group and also, with some of the partners, and they decided to sell to Taft Broadcasting in 1969, and that's when the decision was made to build Kings Island. And they started on that in 1970 and opened Kings Island in 1972. I can remember, Coney Island was, people absolutely loved Coney Island. So there was a lot of people unhappy about moving the park north of where it was, up to Mason, Ohio, a place where not many people had really heard of. It was just a lot of cornfields, not a lot out there. You go there today and just how it's built up. I mean, back in 1972 when the park opened, there was hardly anything out there. So for a lot of people, the access to it wasn't there either. 275 in Cincinnati, which connects to either 75 or 71, that wasn't complete even. So just trying to get there wasn't that easy, but the location for the park overall for outside of the market was terrific. You were 2 hours from Columbus, 2 hours from Indianapolis, 2 hours from Lexington, 2 hours from Louisville. So it was really an ideal location to kind of really grow, what they can do attendance wise there. So that, turned out to be very, very good move. And then having, some of the rides that I remembered riding at Coney Island, being there the first day I went to Kings Island in 1972, that was nice. And it was like you were in a different world when you stepped into Kings Island in 1972.
One thing we had too was what does the closing Sunlight Pool mean for Silk City?
Well, let's talk first about the, I know there was a big effort to try to save Sunlight Pool, but what it really comes down to, and this is any park, any ride, you vote with your feet. And the last several years of Coney Island, it was a struggle for them. There were days you could go to Sunlight Pool and there might be 18, 25 people there, and that was it. So you can't operate it just because it's always been there. It's a business. You have to make hard decisions, and it was a hard decision to sell Coney Island, and it was a hard decision for the new owners of the land to do what they're doing. But as far as Sunlight Pool closing, I don't really think it's going to have that much of an impact on Soak City. It's a different experience. You're talking Soak City, you've got the thrill slides, you've got a lot more to do there. Coney Island had the pool, but there wasn't a lot else to it. So I don't really think it's going to have a significant impact on making Soak City more crowded.
But Coney Island had a chance to win the seed and say relevant today, but they didn't make the decision to say relevant.
Yeah, Coney Island, like I said, it had its, in the 50s and 60s, it was like the finest amusement park, in the country. Walt Disney World, Walt Disney, when he was looking to build Disneyland, he met with the Coney owners to get ideas on how to build a theme park. And then conversely, when they were talking about building Kings Island, the Coney owners talked to Walt Disney about building a major theme park. So it was kind of interesting how that worked out. But, Coney had its place, it had its time, and unfortunately, that's now passed.
Well, luckily, the parts of Coney Island live on at Kings Island and other places.
Yeah, Kings Island was, when it opened, it was beyond anyone's wildest imaginations on what that was going to be. You walked in and you had that European feel on International Street. Everything was themed to Europe. You had the different buildings, the Spanish, shop, and the German, theme, and the uniforms that the associates wore were all themed, to the different countries there on International Street. So that was a really nice touch. Kings Island was in 1972 when they opened. They had the racer. They talked about, maybe rebuilding the Shooting Star or trying to relocate the Shooting Star, but it just made sense to build a new wooden roller coaster. Now, back then, it had been a while since parks were building wooden roller coasters. So they took a chance with this, and it rekindled America's interest in wooden roller coasters. And that led to what you saw down the line with the Beast and other roller coasters that followed. But that was a signature attraction, was the racer in 1972, along with the Eiffel Tower and the Enchanted Voyage. They had Hanna-Barbera land, so they were able to tap into a property that Tap Broadcasting owned. And it was as when you're young, I was 9 years old when Kings Island opened, but you see all those characters that you got to know from watching them on TV, and here they are in the park, and they've got rides and that theme to them. So it was really just a special place back then, and it still is today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so back in Kings Island, like early years, you have some animal cells like lion safari and apparently aquariums too.
Correct. Yeah.
And those went until how long?
That went at 1994. I would say. I think.
And then Kings Island used to look with Hanna-Barbera and had the Smurfs, which went until it was.
Yeah, the Smurfs. Yeah, the Smurf ride. Yeah. The Enchanted Voyage. I wasn't happy when it went from Hanna-Barbera to the Smurfs. They were kind of the big thing on TV at that time, very popular characters. But for me, that was change. And I know a lot of people, especially in Cincinnati, they resist change. But it was a great attraction, seeing all the different Smurf characters in there. That led to Blue Ice Cream, which is still popular today at Kings Island. It was called Huckleberry Ice Cream before the Smurfs arrived, but nobody really paid much attention to it. It wasn't a big thing. But once the Smurfs got there, it just exploded, and it became as popular at Kings Island. I mean, when you think about it, it's the Eiffel Tower, the Beast, Blue Ice Cream. That's what people think about. But the Smurfs had a nice run, and they were there up until it was time to transition to Phantom Theater.
Yeah, and people keep in mind too, but you got to change out your IP and stay relevant. Like, what is popular today? What does everybody know? And right now, Peanuts is still a pretty big thing. And I mean, you can not live in America, I don't think, and not know about Peanuts and Charlie Brown.
Yeah, Peanuts are timeless. That's the great thing about it for Kings Island, Knott's Berry Farm, the other Cedar Fair parks, is that it's a timeless property. They may not, be on TV every single day, like the Hanna-Barbera characters were, but everybody still watches the specials, the Thanksgiving, the Christmas, and the different ones that they have. So they're still identifiable. Everybody loves Snoopy, so they're fun characters. They're integrated well into that Planet Snoopy area. So it was a nice transition to the Peanuts characters, going from, at that time, Nickelodeon to the Peanuts characters.
Exactly. And I'm thinking too, right now we do have Boo Boston and Boo Hill, which is not exactly the most well-themed dark ride, nor the most popular. I mean, I think it'd be way cool if they would go back to Phantom Theater and make some on-time fans happy.
I would love to see that, especially nowadays, the technology, that you could really make that an awesome attraction. It's really improved since that opened when it did. Talking to some people that were involved with that project, they'd be excited to do it again. So I think what Kings Island, if there's one thing that Kings Island could really use, now a lot of the coaster enthusiasts are going to say an RMC coaster, but no, actually it would be a really immersive dark ride. I think that's the one thing that they're missing. Boo Blasters on Boo Hill, it's okay, but it's kind of a disconnect. It's not really in the kids area. It's not really part of International Street where it's actually part of. So it's kind of a disconnect. So something like Phantom Theater would be outstanding, in there. So I'd love to see something like that come back. I don't know that you would, with the upcoming merger. There's a couple other IPs that are out there.
Yeah.
That, that's what you want to leverage. That's what you want to use. So I think if they ever change it from Boo Blasters on Boo Hill, it'd be one of those IPs that either Six Flags has, or it would be, themed to the Peanuts. But I think a great, even a Peanuts dark ride, making it like the Enchanted Voyage in a way would be great.
Yeah, because I mean, it always has good bones and it has a good ride system on it.
It does, and it's it's a people mover too. I mean, it's one of those attractions that will gobble up the people, high capacity. So I'd like to see something a little higher caliber than what we have right now with Boo Blasters on Boo Hill there.
I agree.
Yes, go ahead, Anka.
No, I was just saying I agree. I think another, better dark ride would be a really great addition to Kings Island.
Yeah, I always think when I go to Disney World and I ride Haunted Mansion.
Yes.
I always think, well, something of this caliber at Kings Island is what the park needs. And they were close to that with Phantom Theater. Now, it wasn't as immersive and as long as Haunted Mansion, but it was right up there with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought it too, but I mean, they could always maybe add a dark ride at Coney Mall and kind of play it back to the old school dark ride days.
There's places in Coney Mall that, you could definitely add a dark ride back in the very back behind the racer. You have that building back there that's now just really used for a haunt attraction.
Exactly.
I think that would be a good theater to do something in, or just tear that down and build something new there. You got behind the racer over next to Flight of Fear. You could build, put a building there for a dark ride. There's a lot of opportunity in Coney Mall, but I still think you'd want to use the existing structure with Boo Blasters on Boo Hill. You've already got the ride track in place to do something there, and you got the different rooms. So I think there's an opportunity there to really do something special down the road. And I think maybe after the merger, 2-3 years down the road, maybe we'll see that.
Definitely, but I mean, you can never have too many dark rides because there's always a good ride to eat up crowd, and also you something to do on bad days when have storms, a lot of rain.
Yep, and you've also got that that box in Rivertown that you could do something with, that used to house the Crips. So I think something
definitely.
there could also be an opportunity for a dark ride experience.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I definitely love Coney Mall the way it is. That it is a great way to harken back to Coney Island and the olden days of amusement parks.
Yeah, and when it first opened, it was almost like a virtual replica of the Coney Mall area at Coney Island. I mean, you walked in and you felt you were back there because you had the cuddle up, you had the dodge them, in the same building, and the whip, and you had the scrambler, you had dodge them, you had the monster, so you had all those Coney Island, rides in that part of the park, and you had the trees, whatever we call them, the ginkgo trees that were at Coney Island. So those were there for like 10 years. They transplanted, moved those from Coney Island to Kings Island. But that Coney Mall, that stretch, when you were going from the Racer all the way down to what became the area where the Bat and then later the Vortex and that were, you were transported back in time to Coney Island when it first opened, those first 10 years of Kings Island, with the way that looked and felt.
Definitely, and I mean, I found it kind of funny, but the only other ride at Kings Island that came from Coney Island that is not in Coney Mall is a log flume, and that's over in Philadelphia or not Hampton, that area. So, if that was in the Coney Mall area, that'd be really cool, but it's not.
Yeah, they've got a couple rides over in the kids area that were at Coney Island, and then you've got the Grand Carousel, just on the outskirts.
Did we already talk about
Island.
The flood that swept everything away?
We did not talk about the flood, but we talked about flooding being an issue.
Yeah.
That flood in 1937, I mean, it just destroyed everything. And the carousel, the horses, they broke off, and pieces of them, were found as far away as Memphis. So that was.
Can you guys hear me better now?
We can.
Can you hear us?
I can see you. I can see Zach. I heard you. I hear Zach. I don't see Don or hear Don.
We'll go ahead and move on to Kings Island in more recent years. So one of the big pressing questions is, was the ride originally designed for or meant for CGA?
Yes, it was. That was the original plan, and Kings Island was fortunate to be able to have the opportunity to have that ride at Kings Island. We, at the time, the Firehawk was a ride that had a lot of issues. It was problem plagued, a lot of downtime. That was never good for your guests when they might wait in line 45 minutes to an hour, and then it goes down, and that happened all the time. So Park was looking for something a lot more reliable. B&M coasters, as reliable as they come. The Park, was looking for, if you want to use the term, a giga coaster. So it fit that bill. It fit the criteria for a giga. I know there's a lot of debate. Is it a giga? Isn't it a giga? Because it only stands 287 feet tall, but it drops 300 feet. So it meets the criteria, borderline, but, it falls into that category. I've never really got into worrying about, the semantics about, the labels. Is it a gig? Is it this? Is it that? I was always just more interested in, is it a great ride? So to me, if it was 50 feet tall and it was a great ride, I'd have that over a label. So I never got into that type of a thing, but, Ryan was a great ride, and, Kings Island had the opportunity to have it when it didn't work out at California's Great America.
Yeah, I mean, as much as I'd missed by a Hawker, that was a really fun, unique ride, and that vocal lip was nuts on it.
Mm-hmm.
The Ryan, though, is honestly, it's one of my top coasters in the park, and I can never turn down a front row ride on the Ryan.
No, Orion's great. It's it's two experiences really, like the Beast and like Mystic Timbers is Diamondback, where it's a totally different experience at night. Just feels a lot different at night. So I like it. But you talk about a ride like Orion with Kings Island, leading up to the recent years in the 70s and 80s, up to the mid 90s, it was always known for being innovative. The first of its kind, Flight of Fear, first of its kind. Vortex was the first to send riders through, 6 inversions. You had King Cobra, the first stand-up coaster in the United States. So you had all these different things that they were known for, in terms of innovation. But in the recent years, the great rides that they've added, Orion, Mystic Timbers in 2017, fantastic wooden coaster. It gives the Beast a run for the best night ride in the park. You had that Diamondback in 2009, one of the top steel coasters that's out there. So there's been a lot in recent years that has been added to really enhance the ride experience, keep it a place that the thrill seekers want to come to, but also the families with the things they've done, with the upgrades that they've made in Planet Snoopy, what's new this year with Camp Snoopy, and then last year with Adventure Port, just retheming that whole area in Oktoberfest and adding a couple of new rides, a new restaurant over there. breathing new life into Adventure Express. So they're always evolving and always, breathing new life into different attractions there.
My first ever roller coaster was at Kings Island.
Which one was it?
The Beastie.
The Beastie, yes. I wish it was still called the Beastie. I missed that. I think that was a big deal for kids, to be able to say, I conquered the Beastie. They still enjoy the ride, the different names that it's had since then. But yeah, I wish it was still called the Beastie, and you still had that tie to the Beast.
And
That was special for kids.
And then, of course, my first ever adult roller coaster came from there as well. And that would be everybody's favorite Flight of Fear.
Flight of Fear, yes. That's always been a...
one.
Yeah. Have you ever ridden it with the lights on?
Yes.
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 So, little secret, which I know you know this, Dawn, but for all our viewers out there, if you're ever at the park and would like to see what it looks like with the lights on, go try to be the last train of the night. You'll be very surprised at what you can see.
That's a good opportunity to get a ride on Flight of Fear too, is at night, because everyone, wants to go ride the Beast. They want to ride Mystic Timbers. They want to ride Diamondback, and that gives you a good opportunity to get on Flight of Fear without having the wait time that you're going to have middle of the day. Another ride that I think is an underrated night ride is Adventure Express. That doesn't get talked about enough.
That is a very good night ride there. It's just all kind of dark, and of course the lighting effects and going up that final lift hill is just pretty fun. It's really interesting at night.
I feel like there's really just not a bad night ride at Kings Island compared to other parks.
No, there's not. That's another. I mean, it's a tough choice. 8:30 at night, you start thinking about what's going to be the last ride I'm going to do, and you can go around the park. Whether it's Banshee, Adventure Express, the Racer's a great night ride.
Even the Bat's a great night ride.
That ride off the beaten path. People forget about it. That it's back there. It's not visible. In the park. And it's a ride that, over 30 years old, and just a lot of people, forget that it's there during their visit, because there's so much to see and do that unfortunately that ride gets overlooked.
I mean, if you go on a night like Haunt, you can get in multiple night rides, so it makes it a lot easier to choose if you want to do.
Yeah, that's another thing. You were talking about Kings Island being a great night ride park. Haunt, that's the best time of the year to go if you love night rides. Park's open till midnight. You've got the fog, adds a little bit of intrigue to it, makes it a little more mysterious out there. Just a lot of fun to visit the park during that time of the year, and you get those night rides in.
And of course, if the wind blows just right and most of the Beast is fogged out, it's phenomenal.
Yeah. Now, each of you, if you had to do one, you only could ride one ride at night at Kings Island. Which one are you picking?
The Beast.
Okay.
I'm going to have to say the Beast as well.
I'm going to be different, and I'm going to say Orion.
Okay. There are no wrong answers there. I mean, they're all like she said, they're all terrific night rides, unlike, some other parks where they might have one or two that are great night rides. But at Kings Island, it really makes it a difficult choice what you want to do last.
And for me too, I think that Orion kind of ruined Beast night rides a little bit, because now you have more light again.
Yeah, it took a little bit away from that, and there's been other things that have taken away, somewhat, as they've, some of the trees around it have been, removed, and there's a lot of reasons why they had to do that, over the years. Sometimes, like the pond, when they took that out, I mean, it was something that they had to do. But nowadays, you have to have a way to get vehicles, back there if something were to happen where the ride stopped at a certain point, and they had to escort people off the ride. You have to be able to get those different vehicles and maintenance trucks and things like that back there. So that's a reason why that path is a lot wider. When you go down the first drop on the Beast, when it first opened, that was trees, on that left hand side. Now that you've got the road there that kind of goes around it, and it's a little more wide open, but there were trees everywhere. So it was much more secluded back when it first opened in 1979. Still, covers a lot of ground in the woods, 35 acres there, but not what it did when it opened.
What's your favorite night ride?
It's the Beast. It's the beast. Mystic Timbers gave it a run, but it's
Yeah.
it has been ever since the Beast opened in 1979. There's just nothing to me like it anywhere, not just at Kings Island, but anywhere in the industry where you get a ride like that at night, and just the length of the ride, adds to it as well too.
Yeah.
I think another great night ride that Kings Island that you don't talk about is Racer is a great nighttime ride.
It is, and I got plenty of those in the 1980s at night. So yeah, I agree. It's a great night ride. I really like the Racer at night too because you're on it, and when you're going up the lift hill, you look out there, right, and you just see the whole park, everything, lit up with all the lights and that. I think that's just a beautiful view on the Racer.
Mm-hmm.
What's your
and
favorite?
Football in general has great lighting packages too. So,
Mm-hmm.
What's your favorite ending on Mystic Timber?
My favorite ending? I like the snake, I think. A lot of people go for the tree, but I like the snake. Now, let me tell you a story about Mystic Timbers. Everybody asks, where did "What's in the Shed" come from? That hashtag that we went with when it was announced. Park, we did not know what was going to be in the shed at the time we announced. The announcement time was at the end of July. Typically, that's like mid-August, late August, when you announce what's coming the next year. But construction was beginning. It was going to start to go vertical with the vents, so everybody would know it was a wooden coaster. So we had to announce at the end of July, but we weren't there yet with what was going to be in that area of the ride. We didn't know it was going to be referred to as a shed, either until just before the announcement. The animation video stopped short of going through there to show what was in there. So there was still a lot of discussion at that time. Some of the things were, the different characters, monsters, whatever, was going to be in there. There was back and forth. It might be too intense for 48 height requirement, for the younger guest in there, or it might not be scary enough for the adults. So there was a lot of back and forth. So just before the announcement, the general manager at the time, Greg Scheid, he was like, let's just go with "What's in the Shed." We'll just end the press conference with that. And that became the hashtag. And so whenever people would ask me, after we announced it, whether that was November, December, January, into early February, every time we'd make a post or something about construction, we always ended with "What's in the Shed," because, we didn't know what was going to be in the shed until, we weren't that far away from the opening of the ride. So that was one of the more fun campaigns that I worked on. And when the ride was announced, the stats of Mystic Timbers, very pedestrian-like, not the tallest, not the fastest, not the longest or anything like that, but having that mystery of what was going to be in the shed got people talking about it from the end of July all the way to its opening, and really made it one of the most anticipated new rides in the world for 2017, and it ended up winning the golden ticket for the best new ride that year.
Well deserved.
It's very well deserved. I mean, like you just said, it's not the tallest, it's not the fastest, but that thing, Mystic Timbers, is an airtime machine, which is what makes it so wonderful.
Yeah, there was a lot of concern because it wasn't that 20 million plus ride like Banshee had been. It was almost 10 million, not quite $10 million. And there was a lot of concern because it wasn't a record breaker, a lot of negativity right off the bat on social media. But I was the one person, at the park, especially in the marketing department, I wasn't concerned about it because I knew once the guest had a chance to ride it, they would absolutely love the ride, and it would be something they couldn't get enough of. I had been on Prowler at Worlds of Fun, and I knew how good that was, and I knew it was going to be similar in a lot of ways to Prowler, so I knew it was going to be a fantastic ride. Now, did I know it was going to win the golden ticket? No. I knew it would be in the running for that, but I knew the Kings Island guests would absolutely love the ride, and it would quickly become a favorite.
Yeah, to be by, I gotta say that walking campaign was absolutely genius because they took it way too far.
Yeah, like I said, we didn't know, know what it was going to be. So, we were as much in the dark as the guests were when we were putting a lot of those teaser things out there after the announcement. But before the announcement even was fun too, with the construction fence goes up and you start, putting different teasers out there, watch for falling trees, different things like that. Banshee was a fun teaser campaign too. Having, behind the fence with the scarecrows and having the silver combs, drop throughout the park where guests would find one of those. the screams that were coming from behind the fence that would startle the guests. They'd wonder where that was coming from. So Banshee was another one that was a fun marketing campaign as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I find it funny how all the people are like, what is that? Rock Fact.
Mm-hmm.
That'd been cool now.
I
Yeah,
think
so that's-
Stephen Orion had a good campaign as well with the posters that were like slowly being put up on the fence.
Yeah, and that was fun, and that was another one where the guests, started coming back to see what would be posted next. So it got some repeat visits out of it. It generated, a lot of discussion on social media. The backstory, for it was good, and it really set the stage for the announcement that night. When it was announced, where people kind of had an understanding now of what, if they had not done the teaser campaign the way it was, it wouldn't have made a lot of sense. So it was something that, was very strategic in how that was going to be teased, and it worked well.
Yes, I mean, I love all the Easter eggs that Ryan, like the Firehawk, Skylab, Vortex,
Yeah,
all those fun things.
Yeah, but looking back on Orion, there's a few things that I would have liked to have done different with it, or if it was 100% up to me to do it, I would have put some like the big boulder or something. You saw it out by Flat of Fear, but maybe put something like that at the front of the fountain on International Street when guests came in to just create what is this, and started dropping some of those around the park leading up to. So there's different ways it could have gone, but at the end of the day, what was done worked well.
Mm-hmm.
Never had a million the questions here. So I wanted to ask about the ghost stories there. So we have like Taladzani, Missouri Jane, Racer Boy, Ghost of El Canyon, all those fun ones.
A lot of ghost stories. I don't necessarily subscribe to ghost, but long before I started working at Kings Island, the years I'd be riding the racer, and you'd hear the stories, and everybody described this little girl in the blue dress the exact same way. What the dress looked like, what her hair looked like. So you'd hear those different stories through the years, and these people were not connected with each other. That they had seen these ghosts, people that worked at the park, or just guests saw this ghost somewhere. So that was one of the things that I did find a little interesting, is that nobody connected had heard of these, the same story, the same description. And then when I was working there, there was this film crew that was at a TV station, and they were doing one of those like Thursday Child type stories. And the guy that was filming it, we were over by the crypt, and he asked me, he just said real quick, he says, "Is the girl in the blue dress part of this group?" And I looked over and I don't see a girl in a blue dress. And then he goes, "Oh, never mind, she's gone." So that was kind of like freaky to me that he had seen this girl in the blue dress. And then I started writing to ghost hunters once I got there in 2007, have them come out and do a story on, like you said, Racer Boy and the girl in the blue dress and some of the other ghosts that had reportedly been seen there, and just never heard back from them. So I wrote every year. And then finally in 2012, without me writing to them, they finally call and say, "Hey, we got all your emails and letters here about this. We'd like to come out and investigate." So they came out, they debunked a lot of the stories, but the one that they did in the episode of Ghost Hunters, they did feel that there was something in the park. They did feel it was a young girl there. So that was a little eerie for me when they played back the recording of what they heard. So yeah, it made the hair kind of rise on the hands a little bit and the arms, but everybody's got those theories about the ghost stories, and so real, I don't know, but enough people talk about it, so maybe it is.
And then that then leads back to Banshee, which is themed to basically the kind of ghost stuff like that. Now, do we have any Banshee stories?
Not really on that. It was the big thing about Banshee was just what it was replacing there. There was Son of Beast was just a ride that was just a lightning rod for controversy.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of things with it, and once it was removed, we knew whatever was going to go in that spot had to be a home run. It couldn't just be another ride. There was going to be, we needed to do some kind of a tie, pay homage to Son of Beast. And you see that, with the tombstones and some of the things, as you're entering the queue, and that there's that nod to it. I thought that the teaser video that was released on the announcement night for Banshee, where you see Son of Beast come crashing down, and then all the supports and columns for a steel inverted roller coaster start coming out of the ground. I thought that was one of the best teaser videos that not only during my years working in the park that I've ever seen in the industry. It just really created a lot of excitement and a big buzz in the audience that night. A lot of excitement for what was to come too, and it was a nice way to kind of pass the torch, because there were so many, with Son of Beast, so many people that wanted to see the ride saved. And I know the park looked into every possible avenue to do that. All the different manufacturers, came out, took a look, made recommendations. A lot of it was, I think this can work if we do this. I think it's going to work if we do that. Well, you couldn't, because of the history of the ride, it couldn't be, we think it's going to work. It had to work. And it just made more sense with the money it would have cost to just tear it down and just put something totally new there.
Yeah, I mean, if it is a few years later, we're going to have OMC there doing this.
I don't think it still would have worked. There was just a lot with it that was one of those question marks. It's still, it would have been, they would have had to really tear it down and start from the ground up, with it. And that's why it just made sense to go a different direction and get something that the park knew was going to work, which was the steel inverted roller coaster. It filled a void in the lineup. There wasn't that type of a ride, at Kings Island. Now, a lot of times, you'll get some of the coaster enthusiasts who do a lot of travel, and they'll, mention, well, you didn't need that ride. There's one at Cedar Point. Well, the majority of the Kings Island guests don't go to Cedar Point. So for Kings Island, it was a perfect fit.
Well, that and Banshee is a really great ride.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, on to be fun, but I mean, Son of Beast did have kind of bad bones to book with, so.
Son of Beast, I mean, I remember my first ride on it, and media day, and I get off the ride, and the reporters come over and they say, how does it compare to the Beast? And I just said, well, the similarities are different. So there wasn't a comparison to the Beast. I think naming it Son of Beast was something that they shouldn't have done. Looking back, it gave it an expectation of what it was going to be and how good it was going to be. It didn't get a chance to stand, on its own. It was always going to be compared to the Beast because of that tie into the name. So maybe if they'd named it something different, maybe it would have, perception wise, in terms of what the ride experience, was, it might have been looked at a little bit different. It was fun, but it wasn't a ride that after I rode it, I wanted to get right back in line and ride it again. The Beast, the Racer, even the Vortex were rides that were going to be more rideable for me.
Definitely. I mean, I rode Son of Beast when I was younger, but it's only after Coast Loop removed, so I didn't get the full experience of it.
Yeah, I thought at the time, it's a neat concept to put a loop on a wooden roller coaster. If I wanted loops, I'd go ride the Vortex, So with a wooden coaster, I wasn't looking for that. So it was a nice element, but not something I felt was necessary. I thought the ride was actually better. It was more comfortable after they removed the loop.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that thing had giant helo quality rollable, so it was definitely a neat experience there.
Mm-hmm.
But now we do still have the Vortex plot of land empty. So someone asked, what coaster type could KI really have that we don't have it now?
I would like to see something like Big Bear Mountain would be good in that spot. Vekoma, have them come in and do something there. I think a ride like Copperhead Strike or Maverick, Maverick would really be the home run if they could put something like that in that spot. I know that every year, everyone's going to be disappointed because there's not something, in there right away to replace it. I don't think there's any urgency on the park's end to put something in that spot, and when the time comes to do that, just make sure that, they do it right. I think there's, everybody's expecting something to go in there. But what I think is fun, though, and this is for any coaster enthusiast, is when you walk by that area of the park and you see it, vacant now without the vortex there. It's just, your imagination and what you think would be great to go in there. And I've heard a lot of different, rides, being suggested, and all of them would work great in there. But if it's me, like I said, a Maverick, something like Big Bear Mountain, one of those kind of rides would be what I would put in that spot.
Yeah,
Personally, I would like to see something like Time Traveler be in that spot, just
I was
because
gonna say that.
it's
Yeah.
such a long drive to get to that
Yeah.
ride. To
Well,
have
that would be outstanding too. I mean, there's no wrong answers for what could be done in that spot. I mean, there's a lot more room to work with than it looks like there too. When you're just looking at it, when Vortex was there, almost 4,000 feet of track, and it was able to, you cover a lot of ground there. So there's a lot of opportunity. I don't think you can really roll out anything, Time Traveler, Maverick, Big Bear Mountain, Copperhead Strike, any of those kind of rides could all fit there.
They all sound great.
Yeah. But for right now, it's a nice place to fire off the drones for the nighttime show.
Definitely, yeah. So about Vortex, that seems to be kind of more of a last minute decision to move it. Was that really a last minute thing? Or that planned out for an event?
Probably the hardest decision that the park ever had to make. I would not have wanted to be the general manager, Mike Kuntz, who had to make that final call on that. No decision's ever easy, whether it was Firehawk, to take that out, Vortex, whatever it is. There's an emotional attachment by guests to any ride in the park. For some it was their first ever ride. For others it might be the first job they ever had was on that ride. So there's always some kind of a connection to it. So it's never easy, but it needed a lot of work. It needed a new control panel, and it was just getting harder every single year to keep that ride running. The lifespan of an aero coaster like that, when the park got it in 1987, they were told, 25 years would be about how long you can expect the ride to last before you really start getting into some issues. Well, it lasted 33 seasons. So it got 8 more seasons out of it than, what was originally expected. But the last 2 or 3 years, I knew it was on borrowed time. I didn't think it was going to happen when it did. I don't think anybody thought it was going to happen when it did. But it was around August of that year when the decision was made. And like I said, it was a very, very hard decision.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I was there closing day, and I was on one of the last few trains, and it was sad, but it was also nothing. Well, it's fine. Like it is a good coaster.
Yeah, at the time it was, just real innovative, and to go through all those inversions, and it felt rougher later in time, to a lot of guests, and I don't think it was necessarily that it got rougher. I think what happened is the technology had changed, and guests were used to riding rides like Banshee and Diamondback and just other coasters like that around the country, where the ride experience was a lot smoother. So it just really made the Vortex feel rougher than it was. And I think that's what happens too, where you hear people talk about, oh, the Beast is too rough, the Racer's too rough, the Timber's rough. It's because they're now used to, these rides that are just super comfortable, like Orion, like Diamondback. Well, you ride those 2 rides and then you go ride the Beast. Of course, the Beast is going to feel rough because there's no comparison between a steel coaster and, riding a wooden coaster. But if they'd never ridden those other rides, the Beast would still feel as comfortable as it did in 1979 to a lot of guests.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, honestly, I mean, I thought Vortex had a really good layout for it. I mean, it was long, it had a variety of elements on it.
Yeah, I mean, it was, very well designed. It was very popular. I loved it. I rode it a lot, especially the early years when it first debuted. And visually, just stunning coaster. One of the best coasters to photograph, anywhere in the industry. I have a ton of photos that I took of that ride just because it was, just so picturesque. So, yeah, I mean, there was a lot to like about Vortex. But eventually, something will go in that spot. But I wouldn't expect anything in the next, year or two, especially you've got the merger, coming. So that's going to, tighten the belt a little bit on what they can spend. So, just be patient. But in time, there'll be something there. And when there is, it'll probably be spectacular.
Are you excited about the merger? Do you have any concerns about it at all?
I think it's a good thing. I think for the park, the chain, both chains, it was something that both, they kind of had to do it financially. Neither one was, you know, heading in the right direction. So I think in that respect, it was, something that it just made a lot of sense for them to get together. I think it helps in terms of the buying power, when you're buying for, 40, whatever it's 40 plus now, different properties instead of 12 or 13 that you might have for Cedar Fair. It makes it better to buy, you're going to get a better price on, the hot dogs, the hamburgers, all those other things, the cups, the merchandise, just different things like that. There's going to be savings there, which can be, then savings for the guests. Maybe things won't, the cost won't be as much for them moving forward. I think technology wise, I think that the Six Flags parks might be a little bit ahead with the technology, and then, having that come over to the Cedar Fair parks, I think is going to improve things. I think operational wise, the Cedar Fair parks have a great reputation. So being able to incorporate that across the board with Six Flags parks, I don't want to say no. I mean, some of the Six Flags parks are some of the best operated in the country. You look at like Fiesta, Texas,
Exactly.
just a great park. So I'm not saying that they're not good operators, but I'm just saying across the board. When you're talking about every single park, I just think that blending, what each does best, is going to be good. Just like when Paramount was sold to Cedar Fair, there were things that Paramount did that were miles ahead of what Cedar Fair was doing, and then there were things operationally with Cedar Fair that they were doing that was better than Paramount. But when those two, got together and you took the best practices from each, it became a really good product. So I think that's something to be excited about. I like the opportunity with the different IPs. I think that brings a lot of opportunity for the parks, the things that they can do with those different characters and different IPs. So in that respect, I think it's a game changer. I like it. I think there's a lot to be excited about. But at the same time, there are things that, you should be concerned about too. Anytime there's a merger, there's always concern.
Definitely. I mean, I'm hoping that Jeffrey can still have his complete control of Texas. I mean, he is doing a great job of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he did come from Kings Island too, so
Yeah. So I think there's a lot, and then you talk about, people ask, why is it going to be, known as a Six Flags company? Well, recognition wise, Six Flags, is far more recognizable, throughout
Yep.
North America and the world than Cedar Fair is. If you say Cedar Point, everybody knows what that is. You say Cedar Fair, not so much. You say Six Flags, everybody knows what Six Flags is. So I think recognition-wise, that's the right move to make, is to be known as a Six Flags company.
And see, even when I bring up Kentucky Kingdom to people just who don't go to parks every day, just people I see every day, I'll talk about how I'm going to Kentucky Kingdom this week, and they'll be like, "Oh, the Six Flags park." I'm like, "No, it's not Six Flags anymore. It hasn't been Six Flags for a long time, but that's how recognizable the Six Flags brand is. That park hasn't been a Six Flags park in how long, and it's still being recognized."
Yeah, so you're talking, if you're trying to do a deal with, say, a Coca-Cola, car dealership to be a sponsor, whatever it is, you just get a chance to get in the room and talk to people a lot quicker than you could, if you say I'm from Cedar Fair. You say you're from Six Flags, you got their attention. You say I'm from Cedar Fair, you had to explain it.
Yep.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask you, but with the merger, do you think Scooby-Doo could come back because they have the rights to Six Flags?
It's sorry. Well, I thought
No, go ahead.
Universal owns the rights to.
Oh, no, yeah, it's all the same thing.
Yeah, so I don't think you would see Scooby-Doo return to Kings Island. I think you would see either, it's always going to, if they've got the three IPs, it's going to be one of those kind of three things that they move forward with. And maybe, down the line, they acquire something else. But you never say never. I mean, sometimes people say, well, you ever think, well, ever, 30, 40, 50 years? I don't know. I mean, ever's a long time. So you just never say never on something. There's always a possibility, things come full circle. So maybe one day Scooby-Doo does roam Kings Island again. Don't rule it out.
I would love that. I would love Boo Blasters to go back to Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, that would be, I love Scooby, so that'd be fun. But you can't have Scooby and Snoopy in the same park, though.
Yeah.
Nope.
So, how would you rank the Kings Island owners from best to worst?
The owners, Taft was to me the best. Um, it just everything was just, that's my first memories of Kings Island anyway, was Taft, and just the attention to detail. Everything mattered. You know, the uniforms that the associates wore, the landscaping, you know, the entertainment, everything. You know, if somebody was in line for, say, the race on one of the columns, they wrote with a magic marker, Bob was here. You came the next day and you don't see Bob was here. You know, they painted over it or washed it off or something. You know, everything was just that detail was amazing. The great operators, everything was really good. A lot of the Taft, you know, the team that operated Coney Island was managing Kings Island in those days. So I would, you know, put Taft as the top one. Cedar Fair, very close. Great operators. They brought a lot of the feel that was there in the 70s and the 80s back to the park over the last, you know, 15 years. So I think that Cedar Fair's, you know, right there with them. Paramount, I think that I was excited when Paramount bought the park, you know, bought the parks, those 5 parks. I thought entertainment wise, there would be a lot of things that they would bring to the park. Um, but you started to see some different cuts. You know, the show lineup, you know, wasn't what I thought it would be. It wasn't what it was during the Taft years. So I would say the Paramount years were the disappointing years for me. They tried some things. They had some, you know, good ideas, um, but it just never was what I thought it was going to be. You know, what the potential was when Paramount became the owner. So yeah, for me, it's Taft, Cedar Fair, and then I'm not saying they were bad owners, the worst. It was just I would use the word the most disappointing era of ownership was the Paramount years, just because of what the potential could have been.
Yeah, I think Stephen doing a great job. I mean, the food we've seen has been going up and up. The plug always looks great. Staff is friendly, got bracelets, and I mean, what they've done with bracelet in recent years have been incredible. It's running amazing. It looks amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Cedar Fair, they've done a great job, you know, and I really like what they've done in terms of, you know, sometimes you get older rides like the Racer, the Beast, and the easier thing to do is to tear them down, you know, instead of putting millions of dollars into them. So uh, you've breathed new life into them with the work that they've done. They're running fantastic, and now they're going to be around for, you know, future generations to enjoy for the next 30 to 40 years.
Do you have any more questions about Kings Island? Because I know we have a few in here that are quite off topic. So I'm gonna get back to this stuff about Son of Beast, but what do you think Son of Beast could have been named instead of Son of Beast?
If it wasn't going to be something, I mean, that's just the top of my head. You know, maybe something like Monarch, you know, with a lion as a logo or something, you know, the king of Kings Island, you know, just something different like that, you know, just quickly thinking about it.
If you could bring back one defunct ride to Kings Island, what would it be?
Phantom Theater.
He was quick on that one.
Yeah, Phantom Theater. I mean, Enchanted Voyage is right there too with it, but Enchanted Voyage, the characters would have been a little bit maybe outdated. So I would have gone with the Phantom Theater because you could have upgraded that, you know, kept it updated and really had one of the top dark rides in the industry there.
Do you have a favorite, like, lesser known fact about the park?
Favorite lesser known fact?
A unique fact that nobody really
Unique.
knows.
You know, I think one of the things that gets lost is just Kings Island, you know, being that trendsetter for parks with just different events that they did. 1974, they had Carl Walenda did a high wire walk. They had Evel Knievel did his motorcycle jump. Everyone thinks the Beast put Kings Island on the map. That's where everybody around the world knew about Kings Island. No, actually, it was 1975 when Evel Knievel did his motorcycle jump because it was on ABC's Wild World of Sports. Had like the 52% rating share for that day, so more than half the country was watching it. So if there was one thing that made everybody aware of what Kings Island was, where it was located, that was Evel Knievel's jump, not the beast that made it worldwide known.
So, what I'm kind of wondering is, why does the water fountain by Grader's taste so different than all the other ones do?
I have no idea. I don't really drink the water out of the different fountains, so I have no idea why that might be. Maybe it's just because it's getting it from a different pump than the others, that part of the park.
Like, I know one of the big things that at Kings Island is you do the last minute night on the beast, and then you go milking at Grader's by getting the water at the water fountain there because it's so sweet.
Mm-hmm. It is.
Now, do you ever see like Grader's, Losas, or Skyline going away, or do you think they'll be staying there for the future?
I don't know that they would be there forever. I think they become tradition at Kings Island. Graders and Skyline were not there when the park first opened. La Rosa's, has been. It didn't start out being named La Rosa's, but it was La Rosa's product. That would be the hardest one of the three to take away because it's become that tradition. Let's go to Kings Island and have La Rosa's pizza. But I could see, something else going where the Graders, is located. I could see something replacing Skyline down the road. I mean, it's, you get that taste of Cincinnati at Kings Island, but especially with the culinary experience at the park really being elevated in recent years, there's an opportunity there to have more things that become, signature dishes for your park, things that you're known for. So there, I think down that line, you may not see Skyline in the park. You may not see, Graders there. You can kind of do your own ice cream. You can do a different type of dining experience in that building where Skyline is. So, like Grain and Grill replaced the Skyline on International Street. You do something like that in Coney Mall and make it more unique to your park. I think guests, when they come to a park, they want to try something that they just can't get down the street. So I think that's something that, would not be out of the realm of possibility.
Definitely. I mean, Grain and Grill is great, but I'm gonna say if you're gonna give a Skyline, the park could definitely do their own take on it because Cincinnati is known for freeways, pony dogs.
Mhm.
So me personally, I just live that area, so I love Skyline. So I go in the park, and in time that I can get right to the park on my meal plan. So
Yeah. So I'd like to see myself more things that are unique to Kings Island.
Yeah.
And they've got the talent now with the culinary team to be able to really do some creative things and have these signature items that you can only get at Kings Island.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Kings Island staff could definitely do a great job make their own Skyline style chili.
Mm-hmm.
Here's one for you. The monorail at Jungle Gym, because that did come from Kings Island.
Yes. Jungle Gym, I'm walking distance to Jungle Gyms, so I see that all the time. But yeah, that was from Kings Island.
Yeah, so I've been there a few times, but I've never seen it operate though.
I have seen it operational. It's not often, but I have seen it operational. Doesn't go far, but it does move.
Yeah, it's definitely been modified to be out and back instead of ran triple to it.
Now I'm gonna go a little bit off of Kings Island here. Tell us a little bit about your favorite gas station, Buc-ee's, and why why it's such a favorite for you and all of that.
That was maybe 3 years ago. I was on my way to Dollywood and needed to get some gas in the tank and stopped at Buc-ee's in Richmond and walked in. I just blown away by how big the place was outside with all the different pumps. I just walked in and just the atmosphere, and it was not your typical gas station. Everything was clean. The restrooms were spots. You could eat off the floor in the restrooms.
Hmm.
I got a brisket sandwich, best brisket sandwich I'd ever had. And then later years, but later visits, I would, try the different, food things they had, the different snacks. And, it's just something I just really became fascinated, with the place. So people keep track of coaster credits. I'm now tracking Bucky's credits. I have 5. So I need to get
I have 2.
a few more. Yeah. So I thought, I was thinking the other day, do I get a Cedar Fair, Kings Island season pass, or do I spend my summer traveling around the country going to Bucky's? So I really, to me, if I did a Bucky's store and hit every one, that would be a great summer for me. But no, I just really love the food. It's you've got merchandise there, and like I said, the treats, the hot sauces. It just everything about it is kind of fun. I think if they ever added a carousel, I'd never leave the place. There'd be something like that to do. But no, it's just really just a fun little place. And I really can't say enough about the food. It's just off the charts good with like the club melt and the brisket sandwiches and those beaver nuggets. So yeah.
And what have you? I think they're getting a Bucky. I think it's Rainsville, I believe, right?
Huber Heights is supposed to get one.
Yeah.
But they haven't. It's been like over a year now where they've been talking about that. They just haven't broke ground. There's still a lot of issues there. I don't know if that would ruin it for me though, having one that close to my house, within an hour. The one in Richmond, it's 137.2 miles from my house. So, yeah. So I try to get there at least once a month. On that, and anytime I'm going down to Dollywood, I'll make sure I stop at the Richmond one and then the Sevierville one. So I make it to where I'm at the one in Richmond in time for the breakfast food, and then by the time I get to Sevierville, they've rolled out the other food options. That's when I get my club melt.
Can I say? I think it'd be fun to get Bucky's in Mason by Kings Island.
Oh yeah. But I love the merchandise too. I've got 3 or 4 different like Bucky's Hawaiian shirts. I've got a bunch of T-shirts. So I could go 30 days just wearing a Bucky shirt, and without having to wear the same one twice. So every time I go, it's one of those things too. You walk in there, and I'm thinking I'm just gonna get a melt sandwich. I'm gonna get a drink, and that's it. And then end up walking out of there, and I spent $250 on stuff. So it never fails. Never fails.
Yeah. I had the Springfield one recently, and I went in only wanting to get a sandwich, and I came out with sandwich, chips, and socks.
Yeah, you can't. You just can't go in and get one thing. You just see something. Oh, that's adorable. I got to have it. And it's just, yeah. I could have bought a car with the money I've spent in Bucky's the last 2 years. Could have paid cash. Walked into a dealership and paid cash for it. Here you go. But no, it's great. I just love it. It's fun. It's unique. It's and I love the food.
Yeah, for you too. Their marketing department is genius too.
Yeah, all they do is billboards. There's no TV spots. There's no radio spots. They do very little on social media. It's word of mouth. There's Facebook groups that they have for Bucky's, and the billboards. That's all they do, and it works.
Yeah, going to Branson, you can see Bucky's billboards like 3 hours away from Springfield. It's crazy.
Yeah, I went by one place that said, it was a Bucky's billboard, and it said, Bucky 787 miles.
Yeah.
So you put something on there, and people are like, oh, they're advertising this far. It's got to be special. But what I really want to do, though, I want to be Bucky. I want to get in the costume, and I want to be Bucky. So if they ever do get the one in Huber Heights off the ground, I'm going to be the first person to apply to be Bucky.
There have been billboards popping up for Bucky's in Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Well, that'll be fun when I make my Pennsylvania trips to have a Bucky's there. Add to those credits.
Mm-hmm.
I go to Bucky's and then Steve's.
Yeah, I remember when I first started posting about Bucky's on my social media. Nobody knew what it was. You get like 2 people like it, and one person would comment and say, "What is this?" And now you say, and everyone's, "Oh, I love the brisket. Oh, I love the beaver nuggets." So and everybody knows what it is 3 years later.
Mm-hmm.
I know my wife likes to stop every time we drive by one.
I force him to stop every time we drive by one.
You have to, right?
Yep.
You have to.
Beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah. And there, I mean, I might only need, I might have just need like $5 more of gas or something, but I'm sure going to fill up the tank when I'm at Buc-ee's again, no matter where the gas tank and wherever the gauge is.
So might as well.
Yeah.
Any more questions? So my question is about I'm thinking what the Reds, but there was a Reds Hall of Fame restaurant now.
Okay, yeah, I saw. Wasn't there a Reds show in the park? There was a Reds. It was called the Dugout Shop.
Okay.
So it was a souvenir shop. It was in Rivertown. So yeah, that was one of my favorite places in the 70s and 80s. Being a big Reds fan, they would always have the games. Whether it was on TV or they had the radio going. So I would go in and get an update on what the score was. So it was one of my favorite shops at the park.
Yeah, I called the Red Hall of Fame Grill, and that was really good food.
Yeah, the Reds Hall of Fame Grill. Yeah, that came out in 2013. That was phenomenal. Just the walls. Just all the photos and things that were in there. The memorabilia. You had like the foul pole from Riverfront Stadium, seats from Crosley Field. You had uniforms from some of the greats. That was just really well done. Really well done.
Also great too to get you Montgomery and barbecue. It's a local staple, but they only have like one spot, so being it cleans out though convenience though too.
Yeah, but the Reds Dugout Shop was located where now they've got the antique photos that you can get. That's where the Reds Dugout Shop was located.
Oh, speaking of Buc-ee's.
You got to stop.
291 miles.
Keep going.
Yeah, keep going away.
Pick me up on the way.
Bye,
me too.
Yeah. You've got to stop.
It's got to be for the Lexington one, or the one over by Lexington.
Richmond, yes.
Yeah, Richmond.
If they actually seen that they have Richmond and Sevierville.
Yeah, how can you saw the billboard? How can you not stop? Even if it's 250 miles, how can you not stop?
Like really, 200 miles.
Hey, Ray, we do need gas, so let's just go ahead and go get some gas at Buc-ee's.
And then while you're there, get a melt sandwich, get a brisket sandwich, get some beaver nuggets, buy a couple of shirts, buy some socks.
Yeah.
Get some of the Easter decor and stuff they have.
Buy an inflatable.
Yeah, I got the inflatable. That's always a great thing to
buy
have.
a onesie.
Buy one. I have one of those.
Yeah. Buy a smoker too there.
Yeah.
Wait, so that means they have what? They have like smokers and grills and merchandise.
Yeah. For those of those listening who have never been to a Buc-ee's, you got to go. Your life will never be the same.
Let's think of a small Walmart with a.
No! Don't even compare it to Walmart. Just stop.
Okay. I mean, I am size wise.
Yeah.
Because what about it? Go take the size of a small Walmart, but give it its own merchandise, barbecue, jerky wall,
Cooler.
and gas pumps.
All right.
Any last questions before we end it?
I was going to say, I have to hop off. I have to start being a GPS. So it was nice
right.
talking with you, Don.
Yep.
I'm sure we will see you soon.
Yes, absolutely.
Goodbye.
And Subway is coming, and this is not moving anymore, but it basically is confirmed now, I believe, right? That Subway is coming up.
Yeah, there's going to be a bar there. I wish they'd never change it from what it originally was, which it was the sweet spot where you could get, ice cream, popcorn, cotton candy. That's what I grew up with going to Kings Island there in the 70s and 80s. Subway, people did love the food. It was on the dining plan. but I don't know. I'm not really a fan on having, the adult beverages in Coney Mall. I think there's other places in the park where you can do that. You've got the bar in Oktoberfest, you've got the brew house, you've got Fest House, where you could do those things. So to me, I don't think it's really it's just kind of a disconnect for me to have that in Coney Mall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the only
But that's
thing
just
that
me. I mean, it might be great for other people, but that's just me.
Yeah, I think the only thing that the Subway would give Kings Island was an option to go get, like a sandwich, like nothing more light.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I
But
thought last year when Subway wasn't returning, why not just use it as a place to sell bottled water and just call it just water? Somebody
Yeah.
come up and say, "Can I get a Coke?" No, we just have water.
Yeah.
Just something like that, where that's all that was there. So there's always a demand for water in the park. So why not have a place to get bottled water? I'd rather see that than what I'm seeing right now.
I think that's going to be other things. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for joining us. This was a great live show. And see you guys at Kings Island, Holidayville, all those fun places. Buc-ee's.
Buc-ee's, yes. So yeah, if you're going to a Buc-ee's, look for me. I might be there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, appreciate you having me on, and it's been great talking with everybody.
And joining us. Yeah, that's a great one.
Thank you.
We'll see you and your audience. Look for me at a park.
Sounds good. We will see you guys soon.
Thanks for watching.